Through his unique sense of humor and charming personality, Bill Cosby rose to fame and became a major figure in American television comedy in the late 20th century. Not only was Cosby famous for his groundbreaking sitcom The Cosby Show, which changed how African Americans were shown on TV, but he was also a successful stand-up comedian, author, and actor. But his life took a dramatic turn when he faced many legal problems and controversies which overshadowed his work successes. Come with us as we look into the complicated and interesting life of Bill Cosby. The name Bill Cosby is echoed through the halls of comedy and TV history. He was a major figure in American culture. Cosby started his career as a stand-up comic in the early 1960s. He was born on July 12, 1937, and quickly became famous for his unique way of telling stories and warm, relatable humor. He went from being a young comedian to a respected star in the entertainment business, which shows how talented and creative he is. Cosby's accomplishments are especially impressive in the world of TV. He created and appeared in The Cosby Show, which ran from 1984 to 1992. Not only did this sitcom become very famous, but it also showed an upper-class African-American family, which wasn't common on TV at the time. The show won a lot of awards, including Emmys, and was always at the top of the ratings when it was at its best. The impact that Cosby has had on children's TV is just as important. His work on the cartoon show Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids lasted from 1972 to 1985. People liked this show, which was based on Cosby's childhood in Philadelphia, because it taught them new things and had positive messages about social problems and personal growth. He was successful in more than one way, not just on TV. He has won several Grammy Awards for his comedy records, including I Started Out as a Child, Why Is There Air On, and To Russell, My Brother, Whom I Slept With. These records, which were known for their clean, family-friendly humor, made him even more famous as a comedian during that time. There was also an effect of Cosby on the world of writing. He wrote a lot of books, including the funny bestseller Fatherhood, which was both funny and deep about the good and bad parts of being a dad. Cosby was a leader for African Americans in the entertainment business, and he also earned many honors and awards for his contributions to culture and the arts. In 2002, the greatest civilian honor in the United States, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, was given to him for his work in television and education. He also won the Bob Hope Humanitarian Award in 2003 and the Kennedy Center Honor in 1998. The Hollywood Walk of Fame gave him a star in 1977, and the Television Hall of Fame made him a member in 1992. During his work, Cosby did more than just entertain people. He also played a big role in promoting education and good values. His charitable work, especially in the areas of education and helping African American communities, made him an even more well-known and beloved public figure. Now that we've talked about Bill Cosby's work, let's talk about his personal life. Bill Cosby, who is well known, married Camille Olivia Cosby, who is American and works in TV production and charity. They met for the first time on a random date at a bowling alley in 1963, and it was the cutest love story ever. Bill was singing at a club in Georgetown when he met Camille, who was a student at the University of Maryland. They hit it off right away and have been dating for 58 years and counting. In January 1964, they got married in a big hall that could be used for many things at a Catholic church in Olney, Maryland. Bill and Camille made a life and a family for themselves. Erica, Erin, Ennis, Ensa, and Evan were their 5 children. Each one has the Cosby name on it. Their one and only boy, Ennis William Cosby, was born in the spring of 1969. He became the inspiration for Theo Huxtable on the famous sitcom The Cosby Show. Even though the Cosby family had a lot of success, they also lost 2 children, which was unbearable. The events made them realize that even though they were famous and wealthy, they could still go through the worst things in life. Sad to say, Ennis's life was cut short when he was killed in 1997. While fixing a flat tire. The third Cosby child, Ensa Cosby McLean, shared her father's love of the performing arts by going on The Cosby Show and later becoming a yoga teacher. Her life ended too soon too, though, when she died in 2018 of kidney disease. Ensa spoke out in support of her father during his difficult 2017 sexual assault trial. She was there for him when things were at their worst. Bill and Camille's marriage of more than 50 years is one of the longest in the show business. Together, they've been through the best times of success and the worst times of personal tragedy. Even though Camille was seen without her wedding ring, which led to rumors of a split, Cosby's rep told the public that the couple was still very much together. Bill Cosby said that the fact that they didn't have rings wasn't a problem because they've been happily married for so many years. People in the Cosby family are Protestant, and they live in homes in Shelburne, Massachusetts, and Cheltenham, Pennsylvania. These homes were where families got together for holidays and other events, but most importantly, they were where families came together in happy and sad times. The public has been paying close attention to the Cosby family. In recent years, accusations and lawsuits have cast a shadow over Bill's work life. In December 1965, Christina Rulli made the first noise when she said Cosby did something inappropriate. It didn't get much attention until 2005, when she spoke out in support of Andrea Constand as Jane Doe No. 12. The story Rulli told a few close people over the years was a sign of the flood that was to come. More stories came to light in the 1980s. Joan Tarshish told a reporter about an alleged attack, and Victoria Valentino, a Playboy playmate, also said bad things in an interview that, for some reason, was never made public. After that, in 1990, Wendy Williams talked about the charges on her radio show. Cosby quickly responded by denying the claims. As the years went by, more claims were made. Lachelle Covington, who is only 20, told police about something that happened with Cosby in his apartment in Manhattan. The case didn't go forward because of choices made by the district attorney's office, even though she gave a detailed account. In 2004, Andrea Constand's claims became a key part of the court problems Cosby would have to deal with. A civil case statement in 2005 by Bill Cosby talked about his many extramarital affairs. He talked about meeting women like Andrea Constand, Beth Ferrier, and Teresa Serignace. Cosby said that these relationships were a mix of mentoring and closeness, and he often gave the women involved money. What Andrea Constanza said about the night was different from what Cosby said. What happened that night would change her life in a big way. She realized something was very wrong when she woke up in Bill Cosby's house, lost and confused, with her clothes all jumbled. Cosby, who was famous at the time and was called America's Dad, offered her food, but she left in tears, still trying to figure out what happened that night. When she went to Cosby's house to get career help that night, she had no idea what would happen next. Cosby gave her pills to take the edge off, which she thought were safe. They did, however, leave her unable to move, and she remembers waking up to find Cosby beating her. There were several reasons why Constand chose not to report the event right away. She had trouble remembering what happened because of the pills and the shock and shame she felt. Also, talking to a guy as powerful as Cosby seemed like an impossible task at the time. While Constand tried to forget what had happened, this happened. As of now, she no longer works at Temple University and has left her job. She turned inward to deal with the effects of the assault, and her mental turmoil showed up in her physical symptoms. The event took her a year to fully understand. As part of his ties with other women, like Shawn Thompson and Paige Young, Cosby often gave them money. At the time, criminal charges weren't brought because there wasn't enough proof. However, 13 women were ready to back up Constand's civil claim. Cosby admitted to giving Constand Benadryl and saying that their encounter was somewhere between permission and rejection. He also admitted to giving Serenese quaaludes before their sexual encounters, which she reportedly took on purpose. But Cosby denied doing any illegal acts or giving drugs to people without their permission. Cosby also said some shocking things. He admitted that he gave women quaaludes before having sexual relations with them. One of the women involved, Andrea Constand, got more than $3 million in a deal. When asked what she thought of the outcome, she said, "It was a win for us. I'd done the right thing and it was everything I could do." A person close to him said that he settled out of court with Constand to escape the public shame. His lawyer, Patrick O'Connor, expressed concern about the unfair release of the deposition and stressed the importance of privacy in legal proceedings. Some people were happy about the settlement, while others thought it was a scam. Even Cosby seemed to agree with this, saying to the National Enquirer, "Sometimes you try to help people and it backfires, and then they try to take advantage." This was said while he was still being honored and awarded, even though he had made some very serious admissions. The settlement did not calm the storm, though. Tamara Green, who was Jane Doe number 10 in Constand's case, told everyone about how she said Cosby drugged and beat her up in the 1970s. The press kept reporting stories. Another Jane Doe, Beth Ferrier, and a former friend of Cosby's, Sean Upshaw Brown, talked about their own troubling experiences, painting a damning picture of a man who was very different from his public persona. When these stories were published in Philadelphia Magazine in 2006, they brought everything to light. Robert Huber's piece, along with the scary stories of Barbara Bowman and others, showed that the man was living two lives. Bowman's story was especially disturbing because she talked about how Cosby, who had been her mentor, had drugged and beaten her twice. After she got away, she said that Cosby's impact stopped her from building a career. In the 1960s and 1970s, there were whispers about something that quickly grew into a full-blown scandal in the 2000s, revealing the truth about America's favorite TV dad. He denied all of the accusations made against him by more than 60 women in 2017. These accusations went back to the 1960s, but were not widely known until comedian Hannibal Buress brought them up on a comedy show in 2014. This caused a media frenzy, and Cosby's reputation quickly began to fall apart. Barb Bowman, another person who has accused Cosby, couldn't keep quiet any longer after reading Constand's story. She told of her own scary experiences with Cosby when she was 18 and wanted to become famous in acting and modeling. She said Cosby had been a mentor to her before he abused her. During the whole thing, famous actress Janice Dickinson talked about her own bad experience with Cosby. She said that he drugged and abused her. Cosby's lawyers quickly responded, saying that Cosby wouldn't even talk about the claims. They called them unsubstantiated and used the term media vilification to make it sound like the stories were made up to hurt Cosby. In 2015, Sindra Lard added her voice to the claims that Cosby had drugged and raped her in 1969. Then, Lily Bernard said that Cosby had raped her in the early 1990s. She had told the police in Atlantic City, and because New Jersey doesn't let the clock run out on pressing charges for rape, there was talk about whether she could take Cosby to court. But it was all a bit fuzzy. It wasn't clear if what happened to her, too. That summer, New York Magazine did something brave. The cover showed 35 women sitting in chairs, with one chair empty. It was like they were saying there were more stories to tell, more women who hadn't been in the public eye. Inside, the women talked about their lives and how society didn't seem ready to listen. After a documentary called Cosby, the Women Speak, 13 women who said they were victims of the comedian talked about what they said happened. As the days went by, people started calling him mean names like sociopath and serial rapist. Jewel Allison, one of the women who accused Cosby, called him a sociopath. Looking back, she said that Cosby might have been America's greatest serial rapist that ever got away with this for the longest amount of time. She thought he got away because he was disguised as Cliff Huxtable, a nice guy. Lisa Bonet, who played the free-spirited Denise Huxtable on The Cosby Show, hasn't said much about the man who played her on-screen father for a long time. But in an honest interview with Net-a-Porter's Porter magazine, Bonet talked about Bill Cosby, even though he is charged with many things. She said that even though she didn't see any wrongdoing, the news of Cosby's alleged behavior didn't surprise her. Bonet said that she felt an unsettling energy around Cosby, which she called sinister and shadowy. It's the kind of vibe that you can't hide forever, she says. As Cosby faced a new trial, this time for allegedly drugging and molesting Andrea Constand and others, Bonet's thoughts became more important. The trial wasn't just about one person's testimony. It also included the voices of 19 women whose relationships with Cosby spanned decades and shared disturbingly similar stories. Some problems arose in Bonet's relationship with Cosby, especially after she acted in a racy scene in the movie Angel Heart, which caused problems on the set of their family-friendly comedy. This rift was a big change from her Cosby Show character. All the accusations against him, Cosby has refused to believe them. He has insisted that he is innocent even as the number of women accusing him of misbehavior rose. Responding to the flood of claims has been minimal and measured. When asked directly about the claims in 2014, his answer was simple: "I don't talk about it." This has been his stance ever since. In private conversations that later became public, he avoided the subject. His few words on the matter have been careful, and he once told a reporter that responding to such claims was pointless and beneath him. People around the world took back the awards they used to give Bill Cosby. One by one, the Kennedy Center Honor and the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, which he received with great fanfare in 1998 and 2009, were both taken back in 2018. His groundbreaking TV shows were also taken off the air, leaving a void where there used to be the familiar sound of laughter that was part of American home life. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which honors great movies, decided that Cosby no longer met their high standards. On May 3, 2018, they kicked him out of the organization, along with other well-known people who had fallen from grace. Schools also spoke out. More than 25 colleges and universities that had given Cosby honorary degrees took them back, sending a clear message. After a career spanning more than 50 years, Cosby suddenly took a turn for the worse. As one of the women who accused Cosby, Joan Tarshish brought a hard truth to light. She said that Cosby's name might be linked to his accusations instead of his work, just like O.J. Simpson's name was linked to his legal problems instead of his athletic successes. Rolling Stone noted Cosby's past contributions to comedy, but also pointed out the discomfort that now surrounds his work. They said that he was talented, but that it was hard to separate the art from the artist, especially when the artist is accused of such serious misconduct. People outside of the comedy world have been affected by the Cosby scandal. For example, radio stations pulled the classic Christmas song, "Baby It's Cold Outside," because some people thought its lyrics were too close to home in light of the Cosby scandal. Susan Loser, the daughter of the song's composer, complained that the allegations against Cosby had changed the way people talked about the song and asked people to think about the time period in which it was written. Many of Cosby's alleged victims gave detailed accounts in W. Kamau Bell's 2022 Showtime documentary, We Need to Talk About Cosby. The film looked into the complicated web of Cosby's professional successes and his personal life. In 2016, some private information about Bill Cosby came to light that made his story even more confusing. His lawyers told everyone that Cosby could no longer see and was legally blind. In 2017, as Cosby dealt with losing his sight, he wanted to tell his side of the story. He chose to talk to the National Newspaper Publishers Association because he thought they would focus on the facts instead of the sensational stories that were going around. In this rare interview, Cosby and a former publicist both confirmed that Cosby had lost his sight in 2015. Throughout Cosby's legal problems, his wife Camille has stood by his side. She has been a constant, unwavering presence, adamant that he is innocent, even though the accusations and conviction would rock their world. Camille has chosen to see her husband not as the man many people accuse him of being, but as the person she has loved and known for over 50 years. By not going to see Bill in prison, Camille made a strong statement. She said she didn't want to see her husband there, so for more than 2 years she waited, holding on to the hope that he would come home. This shows how much she cares about him and their life together. It was Camille's right as a spouse to refuse to answer questions when the court asked her to. She wasn't being rude. She was just trying to protect the life and reputation they had built together. She knew the man she married, and it was this image she fought to keep even though he was being accused of many things. Camille wrote an emotional statement in 2014 about the Bill Cosby she knows, which is different from the news stories. "The man I met and fell in love with, and whom I continue to love, is the man you all knew through his work," she said. Bill Cosby was found guilty because the news and the people who accused him said so. Camille's words have been clear and direct in her criticism of what she saw as an unfair trial and biased news coverage. "That's all," she said. Through the course of the trial, Cosby admitted to giving women prescription drugs during meetings that he said were voluntary. However, the court found him guilty of indecent assault, and in 2018, he was given a prison sentence and a large fine. However, Cosby's life took a new turn when, after 3 years in prison, he was released. His conviction was overturned by the Philadelphia Supreme Court, which drew attention to problems with the legal system. After a sudden turn of events, Bill Cosby began a new chapter when he left the state to be with his wife, Camille. Andrea Constand, who was the main witness against Cosby, talked about the outcome and said, "I was believed in court, and that was the most important thing." She also pointed out that Cosby only did a short sentence, which suggests that fame and wealth can have an effect on legal outcomes. As a result of the Cosby case, statute of limitations laws have changed in some US states, allowing more victims to seek justice. As a result, Cosby is now facing multiple civil suits. In this situation, Constand's words, "You might be able to escape jail, but you can't escape your past," ring true. Cosby's publicist, Andrew Wyatt, said that the plans for him to meet his wife, who was reportedly out of state, were still being worked out. Cosby left home early in the afternoon, wearing only a black t-shirt and sweatpants, and making a victory sign as he got into the car. A fan, caught up in the moment, cheered him on to go see his queen. His publicist said that Cosby spent the next morning wondering if it was all a dream. After Bill Cosby got out of prison in 2021, the talk about him didn't stop. In fact, it took on a new life when reports came out that Cosby wasn't just going to go back to hiding in his house, he was planning a comeback to the spotlight. Cosby's team started reaching out and making plans for a comedy tour that would go from the US across the... Even though his lawyers told him to keep quiet, Cosby was full of things to say and was thinking about turning them into a documentary or even a tour. He wants to get back to work. Yat said he wants to get back on stage. He has a story to tell. But Cosby had more plans than just live shows. He was also working on a 5-part series about his life, legacy, and what he went through in prison. He was also writing a book, which was likely to give even more information about his experiences and thoughts. But just as these plans for a comeback were coming together, they were shelved. In September of that year, it was reported that Cosby had cancelled the planned tour and projects. No reason was given, so many people were left wondering what would happen next with the 80-year-old performer. Looking into Bill Cosby's spiritual and religious beliefs. His religious background includes both Methodist and Baptist traditions, which comes from the fact that he grew up in a home with 2 religions in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Despite this, Cosby has said that he takes his faith less seriously than some people do, identifying with both denominations but not always actively participating in organized religious practices. Cosby doesn't mind using biblical characters in his work, but he also criticizes and supports modern Christians. He thinks black churches could do more in their communities, especially when it comes to fighting crime and drugs. He also likes how football player Tebow talks about his faith in public and doesn't see a problem with that. But Cosby doesn't like it when people try to convert others right away. He remembers a man in Syracuse, NY, who gave him a Bible and asked him if he knew about Christ's love. Cosby's response was thoughtful. He told the man to look at Jesus' life as an example of how to live instead of trying to convert others. Even though Cosby turned down the man's Bible, he joked that he already had 8. This shows that he believes faith is more about how you live and act than how you say or try to change others. The religious background he had helped him develop the values he would later show in his work, especially in The Cosby Show, his most famous creation. The Huxtable family, while not overtly religious on screen, had a sense of right and wrong that matched Cosby's own beliefs. There are many quotes of Cosby talking about how important faith is. "You can't be spiritually mature without being morally mature," he once said, emphasizing the link he sees between a person's spiritual journey and their deeds. In spite of coming from a Christian background, Cosby has had an open mind about spirituality. He has seen that there are parts of spirituality that are the same for all religions. Their approaches are only different, he thought. Cosby often talked about his childhood and the spiritual lessons he learned as a child in his speeches and interviews. He also talked about the role of churches in the community, stressing how important they are not only as places of worship, but also as sources of support and education. When you carry the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, all those things bring the truth, he said. He has talked about how religious institutions, like the church, can be good for society. For example, he has said that the fact that Muslims don't use drugs or alcohol is a good example of how they can provide discipline and structure. But he has also said that evangelism that focuses on changing other people's minds instead of following Christ's teachings through personal behavior is bad. Cosby has never been afraid to use religious themes or figures in his work. In fact, he often uses them in a funny way. For example, in his book I Didn't Ask to Be Born, But I'm Glad I Was, he makes fun of biblical stories like Adam and Eve and Noah. But Cosby's personal life and the accusations against him have made many people doubt his public statements of faith. Since he has been in trouble with the law, some people have been skeptical about what he said about spirituality. Now, let's talk about Cosby's acting career. The 1960s were a big year for Bill Cosby, a young comedian with a gift for telling stories that made people laugh and cry. His career began in San Francisco at the Hungrier nightclub, where his stand-up routines struck a chord with audiences. This led to a string of comedy albums that won Grammys year after year. Cosby also tried his hand at TV, getting a part in I Spy with Robert Culp. He was the first African-American to win an Emmy Award for acting, which cemented his place in the annals of TV history. As the 1960s went on, Cosby became the star of The Bill Cosby Show, in which he played a physical education teacher dealing with the comedic challenges of work and life. Despite the laughter, Cosby was also serious about education. He went back to college to gain knowledge that would help him in his later work. But even while he was in school, he never stopped being on TV. He was a guest host on The Tonight Show and starred in specials that brought his comedy into people's living rooms across the country. Cosby was great at showing us that the ordinary could be amazing and that comedy could be found in the most ordinary places. His characters were real, they talked and laughed like us and made us see the funny side of our own lives. In the 1960s, Bill Cosby made a name for himself as a groundbreaking entertainer and actor. In the 1970s, he continued to push the limits of his creativity even more. Cosby created Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, a show that was both fun and educational. The characters were based on his own youth, and the show became a Saturday morning staple. Cosby and Sidney Poitier worked together on movies like Uptown Saturday Night and Let's Do It Again. These movies were part of a movement to show African Americans in funny and positive light, instead of the usual action-packed ones of the time. Additionally, Cosby continued to make a name for himself on TV. He recorded reading-related segments for The Electric Company. Cosby's dedication to education was clear not only in his entertainment work, but also in his personal life, as he returned to school and eventually earned a PhD in education. Bill Cosby's career reached its peak in the 1980s, when The Cosby Show premiered to critical acclaim. As both a co-producer and the lead actor, Cosby brought his brand of family-friendly humor to the show. In some ways, the sitcom mirrored Cosby's real life. He and his wife Camille were successful and well-educated, just like the Huxtables in the show, and they had a big, loving family. The Cosby Show was more than just a show. It was a cultural phenomenon. It changed how African-American families were shown on TV by showing them in a positive, wealthy light that went against the stereotypes that are often seen in the media. Cosby was very involved in making the show, often based plots on his own ideas and making sure it reflected his vision of family life. Even though the sitcom showed family in a warm and funny way, Cosby's attempt to break into the movie business with Leonard Part 6 didn't go as well. He openly criticized the movie and told people to stay away from it, even though he was a big part of making it. Besides his work on The Cosby Show, Cosby also helped the next generation of producers by being an advisor to the Los Angeles Student Film Institute. After the end of The Cosby Show in 1992, Cosby didn't take a break. Instead, he started new projects, such as bringing back classic Groucho Marx game show, You Bet Your Life. His charm and sense of humor made the show fun to watch, even though it only ran for a year, from 1992 to 1993. That same year, Cosby went back to his roots in espionage in the TV movie I Spy Returns, which was a nod to the show that had a big impact on his early acting career. That same year, he started a new journey with the Cosby Mysteries, a show that mixed his comedic genius with a dash of mystery and intrigue. During this time, Cosby also appeared in black and white film noir-themed commercials for Turner. Because Cosby liked movies so much, he worked with Sidney Poitier again in Ghost Dad in 1990. He also had parts in The Meteor Man, 1993, and Jack, 1996, both directed by Francis Ford Coppola, which showed him in a variety of types and styles. In the late 1990s, Cosby returned to TV with a new sitcom called Cosby. In it, he reunited with Felicia Rashad, who played his wife on The Cosby Show. The show ran from 1996 to 2000 and starred Cosby as Hilton Lucas, a down-to-earth senior who had just lost his job and was trying not to step on his wife's toes. The show was loved for its honest humor and the chemistry between Cosby and Rashad. During this time, Cosby also became the host of Kids Say the Darndest Things, a show that was full of adorable and surprising advice from kids. From 1998 to 2000, his friendly interactions with the kids won hearts all over America. Cosby didn't just have an impact on TV and movies, he also had an impact behind the scenes. He created Little Bill, an animated series based on his childhood experiences that aired from 1999 to the early 2000s and was popular with preschoolers and their parents because it taught them things and had interesting stories. After reaching the height of his fame in the late 1990s, Bill Cosby's activities started to change in the 2000s. He was less visible on TV, but he still did a lot of educational and artistic work. In the early 2000s, Cosby wasn't content with making changes in television and education. He also kept writing books. In these books, he explored a wide range of topics, often focusing on humor and life lessons, staying true to his public image as a source of wisdom and family-friendly entertainment. Along with his involvement with the Fat Albert franchise, Cosby helped make a live-action movie in 2004. He co-wrote and directed the movie, and he even appeared in it, connecting his animated work to the live-action version. There is no denying that Cosby had an effect on children's TV and education, even though the last part of his work was tainted by legal problems and public scandal. Despite the growing controversy, Cosby did not completely hide from the public. Bill Cosby's legacy goes beyond his many awards and professional accomplishments. His life story, which was full of both amazing success and major controversy, has had a deep effect on people all over the world. Cosby's journey shows how powerful fame can be and how actions can have serious consequences. Leave a note below with what you think about his life and work.